Hey, y'all. Listen. FreeGameDonD has finally made it to its 50th episode. Let's get it.
That's all this over here doing. You're banging on tables and stuff.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Listen. I'm all about celebrating milestones, okay? I remember when we first spoke about FreeGameDonD, when it was just a thought, okay? Yeah. I remember when it was time to get started and somebody was like, we not ready yet. We got all this equipment. What you mean we not ready? You better, boy, hit record. Let's get it. And now look.
And shout out to you.
Yes. Now look, 50 episodes. We are about to hit you with our 50th episode. Listen, we are so thankful for all of the support that we have received,
sure.
Okay? From one follower, which was me in the very beginning.
Number 2 was me.
Yes, and number 2 was you. Listen, and the subscribers just continue to grow. So listen, thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you to those who have commented. Let's keep these comments going. Listen, FreeGameDonD at gmail.com. If you want to be on the show, if you have some ideas, there's something that you would like for us to address, talk about, chit chat about.
Yeah, for sure.
Myths that need to be dispelled, okay? Arguments that you might have with your significant other and you want to figure out who's right, who's wrong.
Which is always demand. But go ahead.
Whatever. You know what? You're going to have me using all my little buttons today. Listen, reach out, contact FreeGameDonD at gmail.com, okay? Listen, it's all the way up. We're going all the way up.
Yeah, no, this is episode 50 we're about to get into with Josue Garcia. Josue. I never say it right. But either way, guys, episode 50 is coming up. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for the subscribers. Anything you guys want us to talk about, please, man, just you can message us on social media, of course. And of course, you can certainly email freegamedond at gmail.com. But it's been a lot of fun, man. We just have fun. I mean, like, we don't have a script or anything like that. We just hit record. And my wife is so just, she's just kind of
animated.
She's animated. She's not a scripted type person. No. She just gets up and does stuff.
Let's just do it.
So that's been the cool thing about this, man. So we've been doing this for a year now. Just kind of getting on here, just kind of having some fun, talking about life, family, business, just things that we've learned and continuously learning ourselves, man. So that's episode 50 is coming up, man. So super excited, super happy about anyone that has followed us. I want to continue to be great and continue to talk about, those 3 things, life, family, business, and anything else, man. So just feel free to hit us up for topic ideas, or if you guys would like to come in and chop it up with us, man, that'd be cool as well. Yeah, man. Episode 50, man.
All right, here we go.
Welcome to the FreeGameDonD podcast, life, family, and business. Yeah, listen, today, I have the honor of having my CPA on the show. His name is Josue Garcia. He is the owner of Josue Garcia, CPA LLC here in South Carolina. And we're going to be talking about debunking financial myths, because we see a lot of stuff on TikTok, IG, Facebook. And man, some of this stuff is just crazy, man. But first, we're going to let Josue talk about who he is, what his qualifications are, his education, his background, and then we kind of get into debunking some financial myths.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. Happy to be here. So, yeah, as you already said, I'm a certified public accountant. I have my practice here in North Augusta. I'm originally from an island. I'm from Puerto Rico, and I lived there for about 12 years of my life, and we were an implant straight from Puerto Rico to Aiken, South Carolina. So imagine that culture shock. So I, middle school, high school, university there, and then I went on to moved to Charleston to get my master's, and I've been in public accounting pretty much my whole career from the time I was, interning when I was 18, 19 years old up until today. I've had a couple of other jobs along the way, but everything that I've done has been centered around public accounting or doing audits, financial audits, IG audits, things of that nature.
So how does he okay, young man come from Puerto Rico
Yeah.
to Aiken? Yeah, that's definitely a big culture shock. To go to Aiken, South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
What made you get into basically math, accounting?
Yeah, so my dad was big on education. He didn't have a college degree. He had he graduated high school when he was like, I think like 16 or 17, graduated early. And he was just a very smart man, but he always made sure that we knew computers and we knew math because that was a big deal. He was an IT person, so computers were a big part of my life growing up. And when I got to college, I was kind of lost. I mean, you're 18 years old and they tell you to pick something for the rest of your life, and I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. So I just started taking classes. The core classes you need to get a degree. And then I took an accounting class by accident. So it was an accident. It wasn't even like.
Listen, hold up a second, man.
It was an accidental class. I took it, and I was gonna be a chemistry major, but growing up we didn't have a lot, so I wanted to potentially go to medical school or go do something along those lines. But I needed to make money quick. Because I didn't have a lot of room for error growing up. That's just how it goes sometimes with life. You got to play the cards you're dealt. So I took an accounting class, and then I saw the career path for a 4-year accounting degree. And then I saw what it looked like to have a master's and go into public accounting, like the salary and all that. And it's only one more year of school, so I went for it. I've always liked numbers, and I'm obviously a people person. I love people, so it was easy for me to kind of transition into that and then kind of do what I do for a living now. So
it's funny how many successful people, when they're talking about their beginnings, not gonna say all, but a lot of them say, "Man, I accidentally."
Yeah,
got into this.
Yeah,
right. It wasn't by design. I mean, it may look like this was by design, but this was an accident. Shout out to you, man. You talk about, listen, man, I was looking at chemistry. Even that, I'm like, chemistry? Like,
yeah.
You must have been one smart dude.
I was smart enough so high school for me was, I hate to say this, I did good enough I wasn't like a top 10% student or anything like that, but I was good enough to get it done. I had a good GPA and all that, but it seemed like a waste of time for me at times. Because like you go to a class in high school, right? And there's 10 minutes of teaching and 50 minutes of teachers putting up with nonsense. And then I'm sitting there and I would just take a nap, or wait for football practice or whatever. It just seemed like it got in the way of me doing what I wanted to do. But, you have to play the game, and there's no way I could have went home without a high school degree, So I always made sure I did what I had to do, get the grades that I needed to get, and just get through it. So.
Wow. No, shout out to you, man. But let me say this, man, because you've had a lot of schooling, and generally in schooling, they condition you to want to, to get a job. Mm-hmm. So how many years were you, I guess, in corporate America as a CPA versus an entrepreneur? Did you go straight to entrepreneurship?
No. So yes and no. So when I was in high school, I had my first job was putting milk and eggs at a grocery store. I was a dishwasher at a restaurant, and I hated it because you have all these people telling you what to do and like what time you can take breaks and what you can and can't do. And it just didn't sit well with me. It's like, how does somebody have this much control over your life? And I just had a hard time dealing with the fact that somebody could tell me when I could take my breaks. So I did what I had to do. I made my money, saved my money so I could buy my first car. But while I was in high school, I had a couple of people give me money to do little things here and there. Like I would move furniture. I just did odd jobs here and there. And like, okay, I worked for 2 hours and I made more money doing this than I would if I worked 8 hours, at the grocery store. And, I guess it's always been ingrained in me. I'm not somebody I don't defy authority, but I question it. And I always encourage people I always encourage people to question why or what the way things are, because just because somebody tells you it is because it is, unless it's your parent telling you that, kids, you have to always question the motive, what's going on. Obviously, after I got my master's, part of being a licensed professional is you have to work under an accountant, a certified public accountant for a period of time. I was on other people's payrolls probably for about 5 years after I graduated, 5 or 6 years. And then, there was an opportunity where I was able to have a full-time job. And I basically opened up my practice out of my house. And I did that. So, I would work a full-time job doing audits, government audits. And then I would come home and I would work and work on my business. So like I would get home at 5, from like 6 to 12, sometimes 6 to 3, especially if it was like a heavy tax season. During tax season, heavy hours, I would work. And then I did that for a couple of years and had my first son. And it got to the point where I had to make a decision. And I mean, it was either go left or go right. And I went right. So, and I haven't looked back ever since, So.
But listen, man, I know you said left or right, but and that's a sense of direction. But like left or right, and you said I went right, but no, you literally went right. You went right. You went the right way.
Yeah.
And shout out to you, man, because you talked about I don't defy authority, I question it.
Yeah.
And I think that's how most entrepreneurs are born.
Yeah.
Like we don't defy authority, we question it. But the thing about it is that people that are in authority look at them as one and the same. When you question authority, assume that you're defying it. But really, you're questioning why is this that way, right?
Right.
Even as a parent, like if my son asks me why something is, I actually explain it.
Yeah.
Because as a child, nothing was explained to me. But some of this stuff should have been explained to me, right?
Right.
So I know you said, children, except for when it comes to children, but I would kind of challenge that a little bit because if my children, because I got 3 kids, I think I 2 daughters, shout out to them. They're probably watching this like, yeah, you didn't let us, but you evolve, right?
Yeah.
You evolve as a parent. So now, when kids get to a point to where they can kind of like disseminate certain things, you want to give them a little explanation so that they can make good decisions too, not just based on because I told you to do it, but this is why I'm telling you to do it. But I do like that. I didn't defy authority. I questioned it. And I think that's where entrepreneurship is born.
Yeah. I think, like just asking questions, a lot of times, let's be real about it. 95% of people go to a job, they clock in, drink their coffee, and there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Right, for sure.
There's nothing wrong with that. Most of my friends are, W-2 workers, and they have a great life and they have a great sense of purpose. But, that just wasn't for me. It's just something in my soul. It was something that was in my DNA that it just didn't sit well with me, like, why do I need to ask you if I can take an hour lunch, Like I'm taking an hour lunch and I'll be back and my work's gonna get done. And then, some people, it depends who you're under too. Like if you have a good boss or a good manager, you can learn and grow. But sometimes you get around some people that just let that title get to their head. And that's been my experience is, a lot of people have managerial roles or managerial titles and they think that they can kind of control everything. And anyway, so I just question a lot of things growing up. I even, going back to the parenting thing, I question a lot of things with my parents. I respected my father and I love my mother and I have the utmost respect for them. But sometimes, especially when I started this journey, my dad didn't really understand it because my dad's been working his whole life. He worked his whole life and he was always a worker. The companies always took care of him. He had a 401k, he had a pension, he had all these things. And he's like, why do you want to give up this job to go do this? And it's a maybe. And I couldn't answer that other than that's just what I wanted to do. So,
yeah. And here's the weird thing. Because first of all, we need employees. So whether someone's a W-2 person or a 1099 person, everyone is valuable. It's just that some folks have something in them that's just been in them their whole life. I remember being in school looking out the window.
Yeah,
Donald, what are you doing looking out the window, man? I mean, like I'm thinking about all these things that I want to do with myself, man. I just never was big on grades. And even with my son, shout out to my wife. She's, she's got her background is in schooling. I mean, she's super smart, several degrees. But for me, when the grades come home for my son, I never get caught up in the grades. I get caught up in who he is as an individual.
Right.
What is he learning about life? Things of that nature. And I just think that, school ends, but education never ends. And if you can continue to be the most educated, you can go to school and get all the degrees you want. But chances are someone like me is more educated than you, because I'm always digging deep to continue to educate myself. And I don't think school pays, but education does.
Right.
So when people talk about education, they're just talking about school, and they're not understanding that education is way beyond school, way beyond school. So shout out to you, man, because I don't know. I just think that there's something to that, man. And you talked about how you didn't have any room for error. And I think that sometimes when you grow up in these environments where you didn't have a lot, you tend to realize, man, like, I can't miss, man. Yeah. I have to make this thing work. And I think that sometimes some folks think that security is, they'll look at commissions jobs saying, man, a commission job, you don't have any security. But here's the thing, every job is a commission job.
Right.
Because if you're an employee and you don't perform, guess what? You're going to lose commissions.
Right.
You're going to be fired. So at least I can be in control of whether or not I'm going to get fired or not when I don't get commissions. When I don't get quota, I still have a job. You don't. So that's the biggest difference. So when people kill me with that, well, the job gives you security. Yeah, until it doesn't.
Yep.
And at some point, I mean, all jobs are commission. They just are. You have to perform. And when you don't, you get terminated.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's an exchange of money for your time. So if you don't perform or do what you're supposed to do, they'll find somebody who will. And, I came out of college 2010. 2009, 2010, somewhere around there. And this is the middle of that great recession where people my age, so I was 21, 22, we were getting treated like we were just a byproduct of a bad economy. Go deal with it, Yeah. We would get hired and get fired. Like the loyalty that my parents and my dad experienced in his company was no longer there. So it was a different environment. Yeah. So there's this mindset that I already have, right? And I go into corporate America, get these jobs, and I see that these companies are putting profits over people. And that's it is what it is, right? We got to get these shareholders to get their stocks and get their dividends and all this and meet their earnings per shares and whatever. But, you come out in that environment, and that will rewire your entire outlook on life, man. That's why you have all these people my age now that are, jumping jobs 2 to 3 years. Well, there was never that loyalty or that sense of, being taken care of from these companies. You can't really blame them for it because you literally taught us that we're a byproduct of a recession, of that great recession. And, for me, it was like just an opportunity to jump in and kind of just learn what I can from these companies. Cause you do learn a lot when you're working on somebody's payroll. So the way I looked at it, it was just an opportunity for me to get paid and learn. I mean, the salary was the salary, but the knowledge is also extremely important. So, go out there, learn what you need to learn the processes, learn how they take people in, learn how they network, learn how they go to the chamber meetings and do all these things. And, take that and apply it to yourself and build your own brand.
Man, you better preach, Josue. I hope y'all listening, man. You have a job, and me and Michael often talk about this. Don't do your job. Use your job.
Exactly.
Leverage your job. Because you talked about how you worked 5 years up under another accountant or CPA, and you learned, you watched. You're not there wasting time. I think that people that hate their job are doing it. They don't have any vision outside of just doing their job. And that's okay. I mean, there's literally nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But the ones of you that are out there that are listening, you know who you are. Your vision is beyond that. So don't do your job. Use your job. Take in everything that you can take in with that job. Leverage the income that you're making from that job to build what you want. And that's what you did. 5 years working as an employee. Then in 2014, you built your own business. But here's the thing, because I think some folks think that you got to have all of this nice office and all.
Right.
You have a beautiful office, but like they think that you probably started off like that. But
Right.
you was like, man, I was doing this in my house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was doing that at my house. I was using my old printer. So when I started the business, the bank gave me a $3,000 credit card for the business. And I
hold up a second. So I got to ask you this, because you got a $3,000 credit card for the business.
Mm-hmm.
Now, were you showing a profit on the business?
No. So what happens is when you first, so here's how it works when you're an entrepreneur, when you first start the business is well, you know this, but getting money from the bank, credit cards, loans, or whatever is a complete nightmare, especially when you first start off. So what happened was I had a personal credit card that had a $20,000 limit, and I didn't use it.
Mm-hmm.
So the bank, I said, hey, I need a business credit card. They said, well, you don't have any, we can't give you one. I said, well, can you take this credit card and roll it into the business? And they said, we can, but we could only give you $3,000. I said, fair enough, let's do it. So that's kind of how it all started. So I took that credit card. I bought a Surface, my first Surface, Microsoft Surface. I bought my software, my tax software at the time. I paid $400 for it. Not user friendly, but I know what I'm doing, so I could use it. And then, man, they just went from there. I mean, I was going to people's houses to pick up their tax documents. So imagine I wasn't charging much. I was just happy to get to work.
Right,
but,
for sure.
I remember going to somebody's apartment. They have 4 or 5 dogs, and I'm there picking up their tax documents, bringing them home, and then meeting with them again when the taxes are done. And I'm charging like $200, like for 5 or 6 hours worth of work. So it was just, but you know what? It was just something to get me going, something to get me started.
But also I got to touch on that, man, because there's a lot of folks out here that they don't understand the process that it takes to become successful. Because you said something that I really liked earlier. You said, I was just playing the cards that I was dealt. You didn't ask for new cards. You said, these are the cards that I have.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the thing about, me and my wife, she doesn't like spades, but I'm a big spades guy.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever's in my hand, I'm trying to figure out how I can make this work. I'm
Yeah.
not saying, hey, I'm throwing this hand and I need new cards. No, I'm going to take these cards and I'm going to get some books out of these hands, right? I'm going to get some books out of these cards, right? And I think that's what successful people do. They take whatever cards they have and they turn that into success. And that's what it sounds like you did.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like there's no, you see all these people that are a finished product and you think that that's how they started, but it takes 15 years to become an overnight success. I mean, it really does, man. And to be honest with you, like the journey never ends. Like,
No, never.
I mean, success is relative.
Come on, man.
To be honest, like when I first started, my dream was to just make a little bit of money on the side to, do whatever. And then, it got to the point where it just kind of exponentially grew. There was a need for what I was doing in the area and I capitalized on it. But yeah, you do what you have to do with the things you have. And then from there, you just continue figuring it out. That's all you can do. You just have to keep pivoting till something hits. You just keep pivoting. Like if something doesn't work, all right, I'm going to try this. Okay, that worked, and you just keep going. I mean, it's up to you whether or not the finish line ends when you decide to stop.
Ooh,
so,
preach, man.
I mean, my finish line is nowhere close to being done. But to be honest, I'm not the type of person that I don't think I'll ever reach my finish line because I don't think I'm wired to be like that.
Yeah, no,
I'm really not.
I love that, man. But see, I think some people also, when they're starting out new in business, they think that they're going to get paid top dollar. Yeah. And I love the way you say, look, I was going around picking up tax documents, and I've always felt like sometimes you have to be able to see opportunity even when there's not a paycheck attached to it,
right?
Especially in the beginning. You end up doing things that you have to do so that you can build credibility. I always tell folks, man, you're talking about like no one will support my new business. Bro, you just got here.
Yeah.
You just got here. You're barely supporting your new business.
Yeah, and the thing about it is like a lot of people, and I learned this lesson early on too, man. Like outside of my mom and my dad, man, the people that you think are in your corner,
come on, man.
I mean, they're gonna look at you.
Come on, man. They're gonna be the first ones.
5 or 6 years, they're gonna look at you sideways and be like, okay, now this dude, what's he doing? Like, why are you doing it, right? And then you know, but the support where it really comes from is for people you don't even
Come
know.
on, man.
People you don't
Preach.
even know, like people that just, you know, you went and picked up their taxes at their apartment, and next thing you know, they're spreading your word, and like the people that you think are going to be in your corner don't even text you. they don't even check. They don't even share your Facebook posts.
Come on,
like
man.
you can at least share that's free.
Free
99, and they don't
Free
even do
99.
that. I mean, it's amazing, like, you know, how many people, you know, I have been around, people that I met when I first started that are still my clients. And I have a loyalty to them because they're the reason why I was successful, you know, like even, you know, my dad, you know, he supported me every step of the way. You know, like I did his taxes and I said, hey, these taxes are free. He's like, no, I'm gonna give you some money. And he paid for this tax return. But I mean, some of my closest friends, some of the people I went to high school with, oh, I got your back, man. I don't even think we're friends on Facebook anymore. You know, like they just look at you like you're crazy.
But
So-
you know, I got a theory behind that though, man. I think that, like for me, like I was in the trucking business for 20 years. Then when we got into insurance, I never really said anything about support. I just kept doing what I was doing because I think that people tend to define you by who you were. So when you start moving in a different space, they have to get familiar with that because they know Josue or Don or Michael as somebody totally different, right? So you have to reestablish yourself. When you're talking to somebody that doesn't know you, they don't know that you just got here.
Exactly.
And that's why I never really fault family members for maybe not, you know, doing business with us or whatever. It's all good. I mean, shout out to my mom, my parents, phenomenal. They've always been there.
Yep.
And some of my siblings, shout out to my siblings. But, you know, but what I'm saying is that I never really faulted family because they know me as being somebody else, right?
Right.
You know, but these folks that I go meet, you could have just gotten your CPA license, gotten ready to go. The first person you go see, all they know is that you're a CPA.
Right.
They don't know anything about your background. They don't know you just got here. So, of course, they're going to trust you more because they don't really know you. Whereas our people sometimes, the people that we, you know, are around all the time, they're like, man, this dude done had 5 different businesses. He's all over the place. And some of that's probably even, you know, justified.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are not getting support justifiably so because every time you turn around, you got a new business. So no, they're not going to support that because you barely supporting it. But I think, you know, I just think that's one of those weird things. But like, for sure, like your loyal clientele is going to be folks that don't know you.
Yeah, that's usually that's where it started. I have a funny story about that. So this is when I first quit my job. And decided to go full time. I have 2 friends, and you know they probably don't even know they did this, but I'm gonna go ahead and air it out. And then this is not a false story. This really happened. So you know I was trying to get them to come in with me and like build a business together, like we always talked about, right? So it was like a Friday, and I was like, hey guys, like 2 weeks from now, I want to go here. I want to meet. I want to go over some stuff, and I want you guys to go on this with me. And they were all, yeah, let's do it. So then that Friday comes around, and so now I paid to rent a room, and I had a meal that I paid for, like a little nice little gesture, right? Like this is how we're gonna do it. This is how it's gonna be. So I set it up, and then that Thursday, one of them calls me. And he says, hey, man, I know we're supposed to meet tomorrow, but I want to go play golf. So I said, what do you mean? He's like, well, I haven't played golf in like 2-3 weeks, and I want to go play golf tomorrow. And I was like, okay, fair enough. All right, cool. Well, I'll just meet with the other guy, and we'll go over it later. So then that morning, I'm getting to the place where I got it set up. Now, keep in mind, I already paid for a room and like a meal and everything. And my friend calls me, and he's like, hey, I just want you to know, man, I turned up last night, and I don't think I'm going to make it to the meeting either. And I said, I love these guys to this day. Like, I still love them. I don't hold anything against them. But I learned my lesson, and I said, okay, it's on me. It's on me. And now they've been fully supportive. Now, you know, they support the business. They're my clients, and they're my best friends. But that really happened. And they don't even know that they did that. And they don't even know that I paid the money for the room and to get the food catered and everything. So
yeah, I think that if you're, that's the thing about circles. That's why circles are so important, because once you decide you're going to go into entrepreneurship, it's not just about like what you're physically doing. It's also about the way your mindset changes. And you have to be around folks that can kind of like understand and kind of feed into that mindset and really kind of keep you going, because you're going through a lot of ups and downs. But mentally, you know, you're projecting success, and it may be 5 years down the road, maybe 10 years down the road, but you know it's going to come, right? And if you're not around folks that have that kind of mentality, then sometimes, I mean, it's just a weird thing, because people think that business owners or entrepreneurs, like, oh, you got a business, but they don't understand the mentality that it takes to actually run a business, and what you have to go through. You really have to, you have to literally like take all the crap that you spent in school being put in your head and get that out. You can't make it in entrepreneurship with nothing that you probably learned in school. No. Or college.
No, and I don't even know why they have entrepreneurial classes, and because you can't really teach that. I mean,
you can't.
All they're going to do is teach you how to do a business plan. Before the credit score system was in place, that's how you used to get credit. That's how you used to get loans. But now you have a credit score. So even a business plan, you're going to spend $10,000 or pay somebody $10,000 to help you with a business plan. It ain't going to do nothing. It doesn't. The best thing to do is to get started at a very small scale and rinse and repeat over and over.
Yeah. So, and you're 100% right. This entrepreneurship thing, no one prepares you for this. It's kind of like being a parent.
Right.
Like, even though we watched our parents, it's like once you become a parent, you're like, hold up, man. I love mom and dad, but they didn't do this right.
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 Well, and they did the best they could with the information they had. So,
but shout out to them. Like I say, we have information overload. We have almost too much information, so we get into misinformation. Whereas with them, they didn't have enough information. So when I think about entrepreneurship, you have to go through. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care. My business partner is probably one of the smartest guys that I know. But even with the degrees, he still has to figure it out. We've had to learn a lot of stuff, like by going through the process, right? We've had to throw stuff against the wall, see what works, see what didn't work. The marketing, the branding, sales, all this stuff. I mean, like you can go through courses and learn this stuff. It still doesn't, when you get out in the real world, you just don't know what's going to work until you try this stuff. And that's what entrepreneurship is about. Investing. You invest in certain stuff.
Absolutely.
Some of that stuff works. Some of it doesn't.
Yeah. And you learn. That's the main thing. You learn not to repeat what didn't work and go from there.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Okay, let's get into debunking financial myths. So what are some of the myths you've seen about taxes and of course I know, because me and you talk, but like things you've seen and you were like, hold up, man, that's just a lie.
Oh, I don't even know where to begin with that. I mean, the biggest fight that I have is Instagram and TikTok. All these people put all these posts about saving XYZ or doing all these things, and how you can, get credit if you have a LLC and all these things, or you can write off your dog. I don't even know what they say anymore, but there's so many battles to be fought because there's so much information out there, whether it's good or bad, and people digest it. And then when they come to somebody like me and I tell them what the truth is, they don't want to hear that. They just don't want. They want to hear the fairy tale story that you can write off your house and pay yourself $80,000 in rent, like that Augusta Masters rule thing. That's a big one. Where here in the local area we have the Masters rental. So if you rent your house for 14 days or less, and you get that rent money, you don't pay taxes on it. Well, now they're doing all kinds of things with that, where they're trying to basically pay themselves rent for a number of days, but there's no business purpose. There's nothing that can substantiate that. So just things like that, man. It's just a big battle, dealing with all this information out there that is not valid or not correct. And you come to somebody like me and I tell you that, hey, that's not how it works. And people are just shocked. They're like, what do you mean? This person said I could do that. I said, well, go to them, because I'm not signing off on that,
I literally saw the Augusta rule. I mean, of course, we know what the Augusta rule is, living here. But like someone was talking about that. Also on TikTok, man, you can just stay in your own house, use the Augusta rule, and get all these tax credits. And I was like, I got to talk to my guy about this.
Yeah, it's there's so much. I mean, there's so many different things. I mean, you hear it too from the insurance side, but it's just so much. And the only thing I can do is, bring people back down to reality. I told you this before we started the podcast, but the barrier for entry for what I do is very low. Anybody can go get a PTIN number and say they're a tax preparer. Anybody. I mean, you get some crazy software that doesn't work all the way, and next thing you know, they're getting people these crazy refunds or these crazy tax credits that are not real, and they come to somebody like me, and I have my master's, I have my credentials, I have to answer to 3 state boards, and I'm trying to do right by the client, but sometimes the right answer is you owe. Sometimes the right answer is, you got to pay tax. You made too much money. There's not much we can do here. And people don't want to hear that. They want to hear the fairy tale.
So let me ask you this, man, because shout out to you, man. I know I told you, I said, man, you saved us, bro. Because we had got some bad advice, from a friend, from a friend's spouse.
Yeah.
And the spouse basically said, "Oh, you guys need more write-offs," because me and my wife were like, "Man, we're paying a lot in taxes, man." And with the LLC, we was like, "Man, we're gonna have to figure out how to lower our tax rate," because we were writing off everything that we could legally write off, and we were still paying a lot in taxes, and our tax rate was just super high still. And we talked to someone who, like one of my buddies, his wife was studying to be a CPA, and she was like, "Y'all just need more write-offs." And I was like, I knew that wasn't the answer, and I'm not even studying to get my CPA because we're constantly asking for more money for our business.
Yeah.
So we need to show more money, right? Those of you that are starting a business, don't let anyone tell you that you need to be showing losses.
Yeah.
You can't grow a business without capital. When you take those papers to the bank and say, "Hey, I need X amount of dollars for my business," and you want to get this in your business EIN number, they're going to be looking at 2-year tax returns. And no one loans money to a broke business.
No.
So when this person told me this, I said, "You know what, Michael, we're just going to have to go out and hire a CPA, because I want you to talk about the difference between a tax preparer and a CPA. It's a low bar for someone to be a tax preparer, but not a CPA."
Yeah, so for a tax preparer is anybody who prepares taxes. Like I said, get a PTIN number, you get a couple of credentials from the IRS, and it's just sending money and filling out paperwork, and you start doing taxes. And there's also like these chain, companies around here who, put people on the payroll. They give them 2 months of training. And then they just release them to the wild, and then go do tax returns, and then they charge an arm and a leg to do your taxes. Sometimes, or oftentimes, more than somebody like me would charge. So a lot of people don't realize what they're really paying.
Right. Come on, man.
Once they take all their fees out of their refunds, the rapid refunds and these what's it called? Tax loans and all these things they do. So somebody like me, I'm not in competition with those people. As a matter of fact, the only competition I have is myself, to be honest with you, because I know what I'm capable of. Now there's other, reputable firms in town, and, there's enough to go around for everybody, but somebody like me, I had to get my master's. My textbook was the Internal Revenue Code for a couple of my classes, tax research, all these things. After I get my master's, I have to pass an exam. It's 4 parts. And then I have to work under a CPA or a licensed accountant for a year, and then I can get my license. And then on top of that, then I have to maintain my license. So, you have to take classes and, and all these things. And I answer like I said, I answered to 3 state boards. So ethics, professionalism, accuracy, all these things that are embedded into what my license stands for. So I have to answer to a higher code than somebody who just has a PTIN number. So, and it's all about reputation, really.
And what's a PTIN number?
PTIN is Prepared Tax Identification Preparer number. So what it is the number you get from the IRS that basically allows you to prepare tax returns.
Now, let me ask you this. If you do something illegal on someone, if you have a PTIN number because you're a tax preparer, but you do wrong by somebody on their taxes, can you get in trouble with the IRS?
Can I, as a preparer?
Not you. I know you can, but I mean, just a regular tax preparer.
So here's how it works. So at the end of the day, even if I do your taxes, the tax returns are your responsibility. So, and here's another thing that preparers do that a lot of people may not be aware of. So if you look at my tax returns, on page 2 of the tax returns, you'll see my information in the preparer block at the bottom, where it has my name, my PTIN, my EIF, and it has all my credentials. And it says that I prepare the return. A lot of these places don't even have that on page 2. It says self-prepared. So if you're paying somebody to do your taxes and they're getting you all these crazy refunds and all these, all these false deductions, and you go to page 2 and it says self-prepared, they're not even on the hook for it. They don't even know that somebody else did the taxes.
Wow.
So, so that's how it works. So, but even if there is a preparer block filled out there, the returns, it is your responsibility to understand what's on those forms. I mean, I know it's difficult, because there's so many things, so many different schedules we have to fill out. But that's why I always offer to go over the returns with my clients, because I don't want you to just sign off on something and you don't know what's on the return. You have to know what you're doing, and like at the end of the day, they could probably come get their preparer if there's a preparer block filled out, but they can still come after you for that tax, for those false refunds, for those false credits you're putting on your tax returns.
I don't think people think about that. Not at all. And let me say this too, man, because even in our situation, when we were told by someone that someone that we do respect, but they just didn't. Anyway, they told us that we needed more write-offs, but when we talked to someone that was an experienced accountant, CPA, they told us we needed to change our tax status, and that's when we moved over to the S corp, and we made more money and paid less taxes, and even paid our accountant and tax prepared less than we were paying before. We were paying more to get our taxes prepared, and things were not, and we were not even getting the type of service that we're currently getting right now just by changing our tax status. So that's what some people get mad. They say, "Whoa, well, Trump's or whoever is paying a lower tax rate." The system is designed for entrepreneurs to, if they structure their business properly. And I think maybe the problem is some folks don't want to be structured properly. They don't want to pay themselves a salary because now they got to pay payroll taxes and all this other kind of stuff. They don't want to do that. But those of you that want to run a certain type of business, you understand that is what is required, and now your tax rate drops dramatically, and you get to have those savings put back in your business and grow. So it all makes sense, but we're not really conditioned and trained like that. We tend to think that, if I gotta get on payroll, this is gonna cost me more. But you're in business, so you don't have costs in business. You have investments, right? So you got to think about this differently anyway.
So, I mean, everybody's situation is different, but there's ways to structure the entities to where you still show the same amount of income, but just how it's taxed is different. For example, you talked about an S corporation. Well, an S corporation is a good structure. In your situation, it worked out for you. But for some people, it may not work out. But what happens is you still have the same amount of income, but there's certain rules we have to meet within that structure, right? So we have to have salary requirements and all these things that are being met. And as long as those things are in place, then what happens is the profits get taxed. You don't get hit with as many taxes on the profits. But it really all depends on the type of business you have. At the end of the day, if you have a profit, if you have a viable business that's making money, you're gonna owe. There's not gonna be a way around it. It's like you're in a situation where somebody like me and you, for example, we're not on the lower end of the tax code where we get all these credits, right? So we generate refundable credits and you get a refund, and we're not on the other side either, where our money is sitting in a mutual fund and is being taxed at 15% qualified dividends. We're in that spot where we're suffering in a way. So you take your money, you take your active money, you tax, you pay your taxes, and then you take that money, you put it into another vehicle, whether it's a rental, whether it's passive income that potentially could get taxed at lower rates if you do things correctly. But you have to go through that. You can't go from earned income credit to 15% income tax. You know what I mean? That's not how it works. So, and I think a lot of people, when they talk about, wealthy people pay a lower tax rate. Well, it depends really, and I don't know, I don't know enough about, everybody talks about Trump because they say Trump doesn't pay taxes. No, but Trump puts his neck on the line with real estate investments. The reason why he doesn't pay taxes is because he's taking 10 whatever billions dollars he's putting into real estate, and we're doing all these things. They're doing all these things where they take depreciation on these investments and things like that. Yeah, he doesn't pay taxes, but he also has, billions of dollars in loans.
Yeah,
or he has all these different investments that show tax losses because of certain depreciation rules you can take and things of that nature. And that's how it works. You take your money, you put it into an active real estate investment, and you could potentially get your income. But you're not gonna do that just making money on a business. It's not gonna work like that. If you take your business, if you have a profit, and you're not doing these things that these people are doing with their investments, it's not gonna work like that. But it's stressful to be Donald Trump. Somebody in Donald Trump's world where you putting all this money up for real estate, they may not even pay off at the end,
Yeah.
So,
but and I will also add that I think that successful business owners, entrepreneurs, they're also, when you talk about their tax rate and people talk about loopholes and they're whining and complaining about this and that, they create opportunities for other people. Whatever you think about someone like Trump or anyone else of that status, or even just like us, I mean, we're creating opportunities for other people. Mm-hmm. So we should be paying a lower tax rate because, if you're an employee or a benefactor of someone that is a business owner, you benefit from them getting taxed at a lower rate and having stuff structured a certain type of way, right?
Right.
So, so people say, well, I think that certain people should, I guess, and I guess I don't want to get into a classism thing, but I do think that if you're the beneficiary of a job, or of an opportunity, you should be paying taxes.
Well, it's like I tell my employees all the time, especially when certain things happen that I don't like. I say, hey, if something happens to this business, you guys can get a job tomorrow. I'm on the hook for my reputation. I'm on the hook for the loans on the building. I'm on the hook for everything. Something happens where, you guys diminish the brand value, I'm suffering for it. You guys can go get another job tomorrow. So there's a lot of things, man. Another thing I'll say is, a lot of times employees can clock out and leave their work at home. Man, I'm looking at my phone at 10 o'clock at night, stressed out about X, Y, Z or whatever. There's never a moment in time where, even if I'm on vacation or I'm doing something that I enjoy doing, it's like, oh yeah, I don't have to worry about anything.
Oh God,
that's not how it works, man. There's always a sense of I have to be doing something. There's always something to do. You're always behind. I heard somebody say this the other day. I think they said if you're a successful business owner, 90% of the time you feel like you're behind. 8% of the time you feel like you're failing extremely failing. And then 2% or 1% of the time you feel, okay, it's okay. But that's for 10 seconds. And then you go back to feeling 90% of the time, how you feel 90% of the time. And that's really how it goes. I had a friend of mine, she started a travel agency, and she asked me, when do you feel like you're caught up? And I was like, her name is Courtney. I said, Courtney, that will never happen. You're never going to feel like if you feel like you're caught up, your business is dying. That's really, the level of stress that you have to endure and tolerate. And you have to just let stuff just come off you.
You do.
You have to.
We're dealing with a disgruntled contractor right now. And we just kind of had to just kind of let it go. So as a business owner, you do everything you're supposed to do, and you still have to deal with people being disgruntled or, trying to damage your reputation potentially. You just never know. I mean, it's always a constant thing that you're having to fight, man. But what I will tell you, one of the things that helps me, I read a lot, and one of my favorite books is by Dan Martell, and it's called The Gap and the Gain. And phenomenal book for anybody that is a business owner, because you should not be on all the time. You certainly shouldn't be under stress all the time. And I think sometimes we're under a lot of stress because we don't understand, what the gap in the gain. So most of us stay in the gap, which basically means that we're always trying to achieve more without taking account of all of our gains that we have accomplished. And those gains are positive and they help you build. So focusing on the gains, and if you're in business, those things help you scale and grow. But if you're always in that gap, oh man, I'm not doing this right. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I got a disgruntled employee. I got a disgruntled contractor, whatever it is. If you get stuck in there, that cripples your business. You really have to focus on your gains and all your positive stuff, because the negative stuff gets all the attention. So you just almost have to just not even give it any attention, because it's the gap. Right. You got so much in the gain column that you just have to focus on those gains, because those gains can multiply. Those gains are where your scaling takes place. So I would tell any entrepreneur, man, like, you should not be stressed out all the time. Sometimes this is self-induced stress sometimes, because we allow ourselves to get stuck in that gap and we just stay there. And then we wear it as a badge of honor as business owners or entrepreneurs, like, oh, well, this is what entrepreneurship is all about. We got to be stressed all the time. No, in the beginning, but after you get this thing flowing, no, because you've seen enough ups and downs and ebbs and flows and know, okay, look, this is a part of business. It's all good. I'm not going to worry about this. I'm just going to keep going, because I have so the gains are just massive. I can't even get too caught up in the gap. So I would just tell anybody, read The Gap in the Gain by Dan Martell. Phenomenal book.
That's I need to take that advice. So, I've started doing better with that the last couple of years. I've been through a lot of personal things in my life that, you just have to kind of tough through. But, man, Nipsey Hussle, the rapper. I love Nipsey. I love his music. But, and I don't know where he got this from, but I heard it from him. So I'll say he said it. But, man, I think about this quote every day. He says, it's better to be at peace with yourself and at war with the world than to be at war with yourself and at peace with the world.
Ooh.
So when I think about that every day. I mean, I wake up and that's the first thing I think about. Am I at peace with myself? Wake up and just say thank you. Like close my eyes and say thank you for everything. And thank you for the problems. Thank you for the blessings. Thank you for everything. And just do everything I can to be at peace with myself. Even if you disappoint other people, man, you can't disappoint yourself. So I'm learning. I'm learning. I really am, but it's a process for me. I'm just wired to be a certain way, and I have to work at being just kind of being like more what you're talking about. So,
but no, you got it, bro, because you get the premise of it. This morning, I mean, like I said, we got this disgruntled contractor. But the first thing I did was I woke up this morning. I said, thank you, God, so much for waking me up, giving me the opportunity to deal with anything that comes to me today, whatever it is. Thank you, God, that I'm here to even deal with that stuff, right? I'm going to wake up with a spirit of gratitude, man. I'm going to deal with that, man. I'm going to start it off by, because negativity as a business owner hits you immediately. As soon as you wake up, if you check your email, here comes the negativity. Right? You know what I'm saying? So the negativity comes quick, but The Gap in the Gain was a phenomenal book. I read this after my dad died. Back in 2022, and it just really helped me to live life a little bit differently, really the way my dad did, where he just had this sense of gratitude all the time. And so I just tell any business owner, man, like you've got some major wins. Lean into those wins. Stop leaning into the losses. Stop leaning into the negative. Here's the thing. Sometimes the closest people to you, family, it could be your wife, it could be, brothers, sisters, cousins, whoever, those are going to be the ones that are going to have the greatest impact to bring negativity to you, because they have the closest proximity. Right? So you're going to have to really work hard at maintaining a spirit of gratitude every single day, despite all the negativity. Oh, God. And when I said my prayer this morning, I felt so good. And then I got sent the negative email by my operations, and guess what? I went right back to like, oh, we're good. We're not even going to deal with that.
That's all you can do.
Spirit of gratitude.
I mean, you have to, and then one of the things too, like as I progress along my journey, I noticed that I don't know if this is a voluntary or an involuntary action, but my circle has gotten a lot smaller. The people that I allow to invade my space is very, very small, and I like being alone. I get my peace being out in nature, man, like even biblically speaking, people find God in nature. You talk about Moses, you talk about Jesus going out in the desert for, 40 days. Like, man, I think just being by yourself and being at peace and going out in nature and finding God, whatever God means to you, I think that's, something I need to work at. So,
yeah, the God of your understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say this too, man, because as a business owner, we're talking about entrepreneurship, we're talking about debunking certain myths. But let me say this, guys, if you're listening to this, man, guys, everybody can't be in your circle.
No.
The people that knew you don't know you.
Mm-mm.
You're somebody different. Like, and you got to be careful because you're in this space of entrepreneurship and business, and one of your family member calls you or whatever is negative, and it will throw your entire day off.
Yeah.
That negative phone call you let come through. It's some people that I know in my life that, like, I won't accept phone calls from them, and these are like brothers after a certain time of night because I'll go to sleep with negativity. And then I'm waking up with this negative energy. So I'll tell them, hey, I love you, bro, whoever. You can't call me after 5 o'clock. Because if you call me like 8, 9 o'clock at night and then you upset me because you said something negative, and this is your pattern, right?
Yeah.
Whoever this person is, like they have a pattern of maybe doing this kind of stuff, right? So you just have to really be careful how much energy you take in. That circle just gets smaller and smaller and smaller because honestly, your production is based on your mentality and your energy. And if I don't have good energy, I can't be productive, which means I can't be successful. So yes, the circle gets smaller. Some people think when you talk about these circles getting smaller, it's almost like, oh, y'all think y'all too good. No. I can't be my best self. I can't be too good hanging around you.
Yeah.
Like I gotta change my circle. I have no choice.
Yeah.
Right. And honestly, some of y'all are depending on me changing my circle and being successful because y'all need me to be successful. And you don't even know it. Right? So you just, I don't know, man. I like that, that circle getting smaller. It just happens. And you don't do this on purpose.
No, it's not like you do it intentionally. I think, after a while, people still like, people who you were close with will start looking at you sideways. Like, what are you, and then the honest truth is, the people that you do allow in after a certain while, those are quality people that are going to, you're only going to allow in people who are going to match or exceed your energy, right? So,
come on, man.
I think that's how it has to be. That's just a lot of people in your life are here for seasons, and then you may have one or two that stick with you through everything. But
right.
Yeah.
Let me say something too, man. There's another book that I really love. We're talking about people in circles right now. It's called Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. Because there's some people that are with you for a season, like you talked about, and they were the who for that season.
Yep.
But they're no longer that who anymore. Right? There's people that even that's maybe in like my current circle that I'm like, you know what? This person isn't the who anymore that I once needed, right? And the premise of that book is basically like if you get the right who's in your life, they'll help you figure out some of the hows.
Yeah.
But sometimes those who's will start to change, right? And I know when you talk about circles, sometimes the who's in your circle have to change because you keep going to different levels in life, and these other people, maybe 3-4 years ago, they were someone that you needed, but now, not anymore. So I don't know, man.
That's exactly how it is.
I love this, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love this, man. Listen, man, Josue, man, thank you so much. Where can people find you, man?
Yeah. So, I have my Instagram business page. It's just my business name. So Josue Garcia, CPA. I have a business Facebook page. I have a LinkedIn business page.
So where are you on Facebook?
Just my business name. Yeah, Josue Garcia, CPA.
And how do you spell that? Make sure we get this right.
Josue Garcia, Garcia, CPA.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you can come see me at the office. If y'all, you got to pay for a consult though.
You got to pay. You got to pay.
Listen, man, pay to play.
He's not dropping off taxes and all that stuff anymore, man. You're gonna have to pay to come in and see Josue.
I put my dues in. And
yes, sir.
I know what my value is, and I hope other people see that also. So
they will, man. You're phenomenal, man. Shout out to you, man. Guys, listen, this is going to conclude the episode of Free Game Don D, Life, Family, and Business.